Hey fellow freelancers, Johnny5 Alive, and welcome back to another Anthem video. Today we have some new news on the game update for 1.04 that was supposed to be dropping this week, as well as some more controversial outrage dealing with the Elysian chests. And to end things off, we have a big article by Kotaku going over Anthem's history over the last month. So lots to go into here today, so stay tuned and let's get into it. All right, getting right into it, a post by Andrew Johnson here, EA Bioware Global Community Lead on Anthem. Here he says, game update for 1.04 for Anthem game will release Tuesday, March 26th on all platforms. We'll have update notes tomorrow as well as go along with the download going live. FYI, we also have scheduled server maintenance tomorrow from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. PDT and 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. EDT as well. Next, he says, this is the plan, but we will keep you all updated if these times change. Thanks. So that is terrific news. The update 1.04 is going to be dropping tomorrow, which I overviewed the whole thing in my last video. So if you guys want to see that, I'll have a link down in the description below so you can see exactly what's coming in the 1.04 update tomorrow. And I guess the big noticeable changes are going to be the legendary missions and Elysian chests added to strongholds, which have also been dubbed limited time. And I think a lot of people are a little bit upset about that because when you add new content to the game and the game already has a thin amount of content, having something as big as that with 100 items in the chest to collect and you can only get one key per day, having it limited time is quite concerning. And will you be even able to get all the items within 100 days? We'll have to see how long of a limited time this turns out to be. Moving on, there was a tweet sent out by this fan saying, "Hi Ben, fellow Aussie here. When can we expect to be able to earn/acquire armor sets in Anthem?" To which Ben Irving, game lead producer on Anthems, replies, "Elysian chests should be up next week." So this somewhat entails that you can acquire armor sets through the Elysian chests, which is something we all expected as they were hinting at it for a very long time now. But then 2 days later, Ben Irving posts, "My bad here. I read the question as when can we earn vanity in Anthem as opposed to when can we earn armor. There are no armor packs in the Elysian chests, but there are a lot of very cool vinyls, arrival animations, victory poses, and emotes. More details coming." So this is a bit concerning because it seems as if some of the devs even at Bioware assumed that there were armor in these Elysian chests. And the fact that this post was retracted or corrected a few days later kind of gives me the impression that somebody at Bioware was like, you got to correct this, it's blowing up. And I can only assume that Ben Irving also might have assumed that there were, in fact, armor sets in these chests. I think we all felt this way, to be honest. I almost feel like it was hinted at several times in different dev streams and posts. Like looking way back, it was like we all were under the impression that armor was coming from these chests. To hear that it's in fact vinyls, arrival animations, and victory poses is a little bit upsetting. How do you guys feel about it? Drop your comments down below. So a post on Reddit about this saying, "I could care less about emotes, victory poses, and arrival animations. The vanity chests are an absolute joke. I think I'm not the only one that doesn't care about the things mentioned in the title. There is no social aspect in this game and not a single reason to use them. In my 50-hour playtime, I haven't used a single emote for the purpose of communicating with others. No one is interacting with each other because this is practically a single-player game with all these missing social features. Give us armor." Now, I have to agree. I think I've had the same few emotes equipped for the entire session of the game, but that's also because there are no emotes in the game. So we'll have to wait and see. Like, if people start getting a boatload of emotes from these Elysian chests, will you see people start using the emotes? And as we saw in dev streams posted way back, there were something like 50 to 100 emotes planned for the game at launch that just never got entered. So how many of those emotes are going to be in these chests? They said there's going to be something like 100 collectibles, and if they're all vinyls, arrival animations, victory poses, and emotes, well, if you think about it, that's 5 different brackets. You can expect to see about 20 of each thing. Now, if there were armor sets in these chests, 4 for each javelin, that would have amounted for another 16 items for just one set each, which 16 out of 100 is actually pretty rare. So if a single like helmet or something dropped for your interceptor or whatever, you would have been very excited about that, because it's basically a 16% chance to get a piece of armor, which means that's not the greatest chance, and that would make those armor pieces very rare and exciting when they dropped. So if they were to add one armor set to these Elysian chests for each of the javelins, that would have been extremely exciting, and you would have been farming these strongholds over and over and over again. Now, how do you guys feel about these vinyls and arrival animations, victory poses? I'd like to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Is this something that gets you excited to go back into the game? The fact that they're claiming this to be limited time has me kind of like, I guess I have to get into the game. But the thing is, I'm going to be completely honest, guys, I haven't played Anthem in a while yet. Even the footage you're seeing in the background is pretty dated, and it's just the factor of that I've been holding off waiting for big content updates or big loot updates so that I can get in there and start playing some of the other classes and finally build some different interceptor builds without boring myself of the game in the meantime. I feel like I've done it all in Anthem on my current interceptor javelin, and I really don't want to get completely sick of the game, because if new content drops or if loot changes, I have to go back and do the same content I've already bored myself of. So I'm actually feeling excited to get back into the game for this new update and check out these Elysian chests, and I feel like I'm going to be playing Anthem tomorrow. So I'm excited to finally have some new footage for you guys and to check out these Elysian chests, even if they're just vinyls in there. I'm excited to see how good the vinyls are, what kind of things I can customize on my character. But yes, it would have been nice to have some armor sets go along with it. Nonetheless, I do think this brings me back to the game for a limited time. But I'm a little bit concerned because I don't know if I can only get, if I'm only able to open up 4 of these chests per day by getting some friends with keys and going into my Discord and asking people, who else has keys? Can I join your group and leech off of your chests and try to find as many people that have keys per day and join them on strongholds to try to get as many chests open per day. In theory, if you have enough friends and you cycle from one to another, you should have, in theory, be able to open up all the chests in a day if you had enough friends with the daily keys. So in some cases, this does incentivize some social aspects to the game. You can communicate with friends on Discord because the game currently doesn't have any means of communication, but you can communicate with people on Discord, see who has keys, and get in there and try to open as many as you can per day. I'm going to definitely get in there and see what I can get, but I'm curious to know how am I going to feel after doing this a few times. We'll just have to wait and see. All right, moving on, guys, we have a post on Kotaku by Ethan Gatch. He says, Anthem 1 month later, and he goes over the history of Anthem. And I thought this was a very unique read, so I'll have a link down in the description below if you guys want to read this for yourself, but we're going to go through it all here today. So starting up, he says, it's been 1 month since Anthem released, though it feels like a lot longer. So much has happened, a lot of it bad, but some of it also good. Despite all the game's issues, it had small but solid foundation for the Bioware built on. There are a lot of frustrating things still in the game, many of which, such the loot system, the player base has spent the last month discussing ad nauseum. Here's what's happened since release. And I do have to agree that it's felt like a very long time. It's only been a month, but I feel like I've been covering this game for literally a lifetime. I guess when games have so much controversy, it just weighs on you, and and you're just waiting in anticipation that minutes turn into hours and hours turn into weeks, and it feels like nothing's changing. But for just a month, that's not a lot of time for change. So it's interesting. Anyways, let's get into this post. Anthem launches on February 15th, sort of. The game release ends up being staggered. PC players who subscribe on Origin Premier are able to access the game to the full on the 15th. Xbox players with EA Access memberships are only be able to play for a 10-hour demo. Anything else, including PS4, have to wait till February 22nd. A very strange release, definitely. The game gets a small server-side hotfix over the weekend for the 15th to make the game's widely criticized tomb challenges less grindy. Players discover Anthem's version of Destiny 1 Loot Cave on February 18th. Masterworks, some of the game's rarest loot dropped from the randomly generated treasure chests in free play when playing on higher difficulties. A map of the most efficient route to get them starts making rounds, but Bioware patches it by the end of the day. Bioware releases a day 1 patch on February 20th, 2 days ahead of the schedule, to try and fix some of the game's biggest issues. This include long load times, game crashes, and players not getting loot from enemies killed or treasure chests that are open while they're incapacitated. While the patch does address these problems once it goes live, it also causes others, including worse frame rates and temporary removal of the game's Stronghold quick play feature. The game's loot system gets a lot more generous after February 22nd hotfix, but the effects end up being temporary. Lead producer Ben Irving confirms that the loot buff, which lasted approximately 11 hours, was actually an unintended bug, and the drop rates for rare gear are ultimately rolled back in a hotfix. Now everybody was raving about this, bring back the loot. I didn't get to experience this 11-hour window, and I wish I did, but at the same time I'm glad I didn't, because that's such a tease. Reviews come out over the next few days, including ours, which most ranging from so-so to pretty negative. The game's exosuit flight mechanics are almost universally praised, but other elements like the mission design, user interface, and especially the loot system are largely panned. Clips of a glitch that allows Anthem players to stash one javelin inside of another start making the rounds on February 25th. As a result of the glitch, players are able to mix and match abilities from different javelins in order to make unofficial hybrid builds. Bioware eventually patched it out. Bioware tries to make the game's loot better by changing how inscriptions work. In February 28th patch, rather than increasing the drop rates for rare gear, the studio makes the stats on individual pieces better, and also makes the stats that don't apply to that item can no longer randomly appear on it. Players report that Anthem is turning off their PS4s. We don't really need to go into this one. It's pretty self-explanatory. Anthem streamer and YouTube Glad gets temporarily banned for the game. Don't really need to go over that one. Self-explanatory as well. An image comparing features shown in the Anthem's pre-release trailers and what's actually in the game starts making rounds on March 5th. Irving takes to the comment section of the subreddit to respond, calling this cost of transparency and pointing out if it's normal for a game to change during development. A deeper analysis of what was shown in previous E3s shows that there were indeed a number of changes, many of which to have reduced the emphasis on exploration and discovery. On March 6th, players report that the starting gun actually does more damage than Anthem's legendary weapons. Bioware later confirms that this is a straightforward bug that will be addressed in the next update. Bioware released patch 1.03 on March 9th to address the PS4 shutoff problems. For a brief period, Friday night into Saturday, Anthem showers players with high-level loot. The player base is ecstatic, but the bounty is short-lived. Bioware confirms that the generous drop rates were once again a bug. Players attempt to rally everyone around a week-long boycott, but there are no evidence that it ever actually takes off. Anthem's community director tells players that hostile replies have driven some of the developers away from communicating. Things used to be a lot friendlier here for the dev team, who normally don't talk on social channels or forums. Jesse Anderson writes on the game subreddit. He also tells the player base that Bioware takes all the feedback seriously and is continuing to work on improving the game. Bioware eventually makes some concessions on loot drop rates on March 15th. An update increases drop rates for the game's hardest activities in order to make them more rewarding and gives players a reason to work towards them rather than just repeating easier missions over and over again. Bioware commits to a bigger overhaul of the game's loot system for the time in the future. Now, this is interesting because you guys did report that nothing has changed. I saw some posts where some people were getting extremely lucky, but most people are saying that it doesn't feel much different. And there are, from what my understanding, we'll have to wait till tomorrow to see. There are no big loot changes in tomorrow's update. We'll just have to wait and see, though, because they might just stealth something in there and surprise us all. And they need to do that at this point. They need to come out with something that was unexpected to bring everybody back, because at this point, people are kind of disappointed with the Elysian chests, and the legendary missions don't seem to be that enticing either. So this patch will get swept under the rug if they don't bring in something big. So let's hope some loot is brought to 1.04. Bioware General Manager Casey Hudson admits Anthem's launch was rougher than expected. In a blog post on March 19th, we launched a game that so many of you tell us is really fun at its core, but we also had a degree of issues that did not reveal themselves until we were operating at the scale of millions of players, he writes. He tells the players to the next stage of the game's content is when things really get exciting. Now, this is big because they keep hyping up the cataclysms, and they did it again here. So we're expecting big, big, big things, and I feel like this cataclysm says it all in the name. If the cataclysm isn't good, it could quite potentially be the cataclysm, the catalyst that kills Anthem, because they're really putting a lot of emphasis on this new content. So big hopes for the future, guys. Game's next stage of changes get outlined on March 20th live stream with developers. Some of these include removing the loading screens to access the forge, new icons on the map to highlight world events, and new set of special treasure chests with unique equipment tied to particular missions. And that's where we are. Anthem's launch has been anything but smooth. While bugs, crashes, and loading times have been drastically improved, it still feels like there's a lot missing. As a result, everyone is focused on the free content that will be added in the coming weeks and months, the biggest of the community's current schedule to arrive in May in the form of a cataclysm, a world-changing event that will showcase a longer, more involved, and more challenging raid-like mission. Hoo-wee. There we go again. Everyone thinks the cataclysms are going to be huge, and there's a lot of anticipation built up around them. I'm just excited for the next stronghold. I like the strongholds in this game, and I do feel like when the next stronghold comes out, they should also address the balance of the other two strongholds, not including Tyrant Mines. They need to bring down the Monitor boss fight to be on par with the length of Tyrant Mines, as well as slightly adjust the Temple of Scar, making all three equal. Add in a random dungeon finder, so now you get a random chance of the 1 in 4, and a reward for choosing random play, maybe a masterwork or a legendary for choosing a random mission, and then they just need to fine-tune those things a little bit to bring random dungeon group play back into Anthem with the Elysian chests, and boom, you have something solid to work with, and then sprinkle in some armor into those Elysian chests. Kaboom! And I think Anthem's in a pretty decent state until the cataclysms arrive. What do you guys think? Love hearing your thoughts. Post your comments down below. What did you guys think of this review of Anthems last month? It's been a crazy, rocky month, hasn't it? That's a lot of news, a lot of points to go over, and I think Anthem's just been a crazy ride, but ultimately, we all really love the game. I still love Anthem, and like I said, I've been putting it down for a little bit, playing some Division, playing some Satisfactory, because I don't want to end up hating Anthem, because I really, really love it. So sometimes when you love something, you have to set it free. That's the saying. So I'm just setting it free for now, and hopefully one day it comes back to me. And I think that day comes tomorrow. So I'm very excited to read the patch notes tomorrow, so be sure to check back in tomorrow, guys, and we'll go over it all, and hopefully there's some teasers or something that we didn't expect in the 1.04 update. Maybe they're bringing in Loot 2.0 or something crazy like that. That would be freaking phenomenal. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me here today. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more Anthem content. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye now.